we have not talked, I don't think, on the program about an awful story that happened in Texas. A 17-year-old, I believe, high school kid in Texas was stabbed in the heart by a suspect, a guy named Carmelo Anthony, not the basketball player, for those of you out there, 17-year-old, also Texas kid. There was a dispute over where the 17-year-old should be sitting. And the 17-year-old that is accused of committing the murder had a knife in his bag, said, "Hey, if you tell me where to go," he was sitting in the wrong area, "there will be basically consequences." The other kid says, "Hey, you shouldn't be sitting here. You're in the wrong place." And the Carmelo Anthony kid stands up and stabs the 17-year-old in the heart, and he bleeds out, dies there in the arms of his twin brother. I mean, it is an awful story. And not surprisingly, it has gotten attention to a large extent only on right wing media because it is, and I say right wing media, it is a story that is uncomfortable for much left wing media because the kid that got stabbed to death was a white kid. The kid that did the stabbing was a black kid. Now, this happened in Frisco. For those of you not familiar, that's about 30 miles north of Dallas. And the individual who was stabbed to death, Austin Metcalf, he was an 11th grader at Memorial High School in that area. Okay. I've got Buck, 17, 14, 10-year-olds. So anytime I see a story like this, it makes me sick to my stomach. My son is the same age as this, my oldest is the same age as this kid who was both stabbed and also the stabber. The reason we're talking about it is there is a GoFundMe page that has been created for the Carmelo Anthony, the individual that is accused of stabbing this young kid to death. And it has raised $160,000, I believe, Buck. You may have
Yes.
it open in front of you right now.
Yes.
Why I think this is interesting, and I want to get your reaction to it. First of all, it's awful, and this is emblematic, unfortunately, of what happens with young people when it comes to violence in America today. Relatively inconsequential issues are leading to death, and this is a snapshot of what happens all over the
Oh,
country. And
uh, there's more than that too. I mean, there's a lot of conversation now around because this for something like this to happen at a high school athletic event over who's sitting in what section.
yes,
You have to there's no okay. There's a lot to be said here. One is that people are pointing out why is it that half the murders in this country are committed by black men aged 16 to 40, and we're not allowed to. That's just the way that the statistics are, right? That's part of the conversation. Why is there such a disproportionate? And we can get into all that conversation, but you should be able to say that out loud without people gasping and saying, "How dare you say that?" That's just a fact. It's just a fact. So why is one part of the American community committing such a disproportionate share of the violence? Now, generally, as I also know these statistics, the black community, when there is violence, it's men. It's not, we're not talking about women, black men. It's against other black men. However, when
correct.
you look at interracial violence, it is also wildly disproportionately the case that there will be black violence against a non-black individual than a non-black individual committing violence against a black person. So this is what the conversation online has. That was initially where it turned. That was what it turned into. Matt Walsh asked this question, got over the Daily Wire, got a lot of heat from people. He's saying, "Look, why are we ever allowed to say that maybe that there should be some way to culturally, socially to address this issue, this disparity?" Okay, disparity in other ways we can talk about all day long, right? Disparity in household income. How do we fix that disparity? Other disparities are to be addressed. This disparity is not to be talked about, and I think
And by the
people
way,
are
not only are to be addressed, are a sign that America is failing, right? Like
yes.
if you
Failure
say
to
like the
address it is a
wealth gap,
problem. Yeah.
yes, then
Absolutely true.
you are a
Failure to address
problem.
is a problem. So now what's happened, because the online left has gotten involved, is they're saying, "Oh, it was a case of self-defense, just like Kyle Rittenhouse." This is what they're trying to say. And I think that has outraged a lot of people because, first of all, I know the father of the boy who was stabbed to death. He is a believing Christian, and he said, I forgive him. And there are a lot of people that are saying, I don't want to get into that. I didn't just lose a child. I'm not going to criticize somebody who did. I would not personally be saying that I forgave anyone. I would be wondering if I could be the one that threw the switch on the electric chair. But put that aside, I'm a different person than that person, and I didn't just lose a family member, a son. Okay. Self-defense for this claim. I'm sorry that the left is so unfamiliar with this. It's interesting, Clay. Just like with firearms, there's a tremendous disparity, politically and culturally, between the left and the right when it comes to issues, when it comes to self-defense. They have no idea. Just like they don't understand anything about law enforcement, just they have a very superficial and generally idiotic view of it. They don't understand that, for example, if somebody walks up to my car and they say, hey, give me all your money or I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to shoot you. I have a gun in my pocket. In Florida, if I drew down on them and if people believe that that threat was there, that's what was said, maybe this is on video or whatever, people believe that my life is in danger, I am justified. If somebody walked up to my car and like, hey, you drive like a jerk, and I pulled out my gun and I shot them, I'm a murderer. I'm going
Yes.
to prison, as I should, right? Self-defense is not, we are in an argument, I'm going to kill you. That's not self-defense. And that's what happened with this individual quite clearly, okay? We're arguing over a chair. Unless he believed he was in fear of his, he stabbed this kid in the heart.
Yes.
Another part of this too. That's, I'm killing you. Okay. Anybody with a knife knows, you could slash. I'm not saying do this. I mean, if you slash somebody in the face, you slash them in the arm, you slash them in the stomach, you're going to get, they're going to run away and be like, oh my God, they're going to want to not deal with you anymore. Right. Stabbed him in the heart to kill him. And now people on the left are saying, and there are some prominent, commentator type, not prominent, but some commentator types are saying this too. It's self-defense, and people are taking it as a real slap in the face, because instead of the conversation about why would somebody resort to lethal violence in this circumstance against a high school peer with no real provocation, it was self-defense. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
really the left spitting on the grave of this kid.
Not only that, GoFundMe has a policy where they did not allow Kyle Rittenhouse to raise money. In fact, they shut down any attempt to raise money for him to be able to defend himself. And in general, I think their policy is these fundraisers aren't allowed because, for instance, a guy like Luigi Mangione, Buck, would probably, sadly, raise millions of dollars
Yes.
for his legal defense if they had a GoFundMe up for him.
GoFundMe being run by a bunch of left-wing communists, though. I mean, unfortunately, this is just the deal. This is why a lot of people don't like GoFundMe, because it's a left-wing entity, and they do this. It's a private entity. They're allowed to make their own. It's like a social media company, right? Which we saw with all of them for a long time, completely arbitrary. Not, I shouldn't say arbitrarily, in partisan and very intentional fashion, are hurting one side to benefit the other. So, I mean, GoFundMe falls into that category as well. But the claim that, now this ties in because the claim of self-defense, you can see that people are believing this because they're giving money on the GoFundMe. So now you have people that are hearing this story who are saying, I want to support this kid who stabbed this other kid in the heart in front of his dad and his brother because he said, you're not supposed to be seated in this section. This is appalling. I mean, to your point about Luigi Mangione, people are really rightly upset at this. What American wants? Wants is an interesting question there, isn't it? What American believes this story that this kid actually thought in a who had the knife? Who had the weapon? The kid who killed him.
Yeah.
How could he have been in a position where he thought he was under threat of extreme violence and/or threat of his life? He didn't.
And
this kid should go to prison the rest of his life. This is not a hard case.
I think that's right. I think it also speaks to masculinity in crisis because, to your point, yes, 16 to 40-year-old black men commit over half of all murders in this country, which is a staggering perspective stat, considering that 16 to 40-year-old black men probably represent, what do you think, 3% of the overall United States population, 5% at most? I mean, it's a tiny percentage of the overall population, and they represent over half of all murders.
And it's even more disconcerting. You look in a place like New York City, where on a per capita basis, the poorest ethnicity in New York City is when you include the Asian immigrant population. There's a lot of very poor Asians, whether South Asian or East Asian, in New York City, Clay, who commit effectively no violent crime,
Yeah.
almost none. So they're poor, but they don't kill anybody. And these are the conversations people want to say. Okay, well, what's going on here? Clearly, there is a pernicious cultural and family destruction influence in some communities that makes the propensity for violence as a result of those cultural issues likelier. And instead of addressing it, well, now we have people saying, "Oh, well, let's talk about this as a self-defense case." No serious person thinks this is a self-defense case.
I think a large degree what you would see is that the overwhelming amount of violent crime is committed in fatherless households across racial groups. That is, absence of men, absence of dads leads young men to be far more likely to be violent. And I don't think that's coincidental. The other part of this is, and you hit on it, if this had been two black kids, exact same story, nobody would have heard about it, because young black male violence against other young black males is so common that it virtually makes no news at all. And this is why, and I'm writing in this new book that I'm writing, Buck, it's been so unfortunate that we have demonized police, because if you look at the data, there are, I believe that the data reflects this is true, thousands and thousands of young black men who are dead because police weren't able to do the jobs that they should have been able to do in those cities. So everybody who marched BLM, everybody who donated money BLM, all those people walking around raising their fists, the actual most prominent consequence of your rebellion, of your protest, was thousands more young black men
Right.
dead. And again, Buck, this wouldn't even be a story if this is two young black kids, one stabs the other over a dispute about who should be sitting where. None of us would have heard about it.
And it seems that it just broke as we were talking about this. I can't say that one led to the other, but they've pulled the GoFundMe for the. And so I guess they are adhering to the criminal defense rules. Maybe they got caught though on this one. People pointed out, "Hey, you say no criminal defense fundraising on GoFundMe, and now that's ended." You have addition to
One
this.
bit of change there is at Give, Send, Go. And look, team, can you look up the difference on what these organizations are? I'm not sure if Go,
I
Send,
think they're
Go.
just variations on the. I think they do the same stuff,
Okay, so
basically,
they
right?
are allowing their funding to still occur. That has raised $170,000. So the main one, that is GoFundMe, which a lot of people know, has shut down the ability to raise money. What I am seeing on Give, Send, Go is that that has still been allowed to happen, and that there has been $170,000 raised on that platform. The reason why I say Give, Send, Go, there are a bunch different of these companies that compete against each other. And so I don't know if this is quote unquote a left wing site or what their orders
Right.
of fundraising, rules of fundraising are, but they have raised over 170,000 for this alleged stabber there.